Hey everybody, I'm Matt Hernandez, and today we're going to take natural light headshots. Okay, so I wanted to do a video for people that may not necessarily have a studio or even lights. So while I usually take headshots with strobes or LEDs, natural light is a good option. All you need really is a big window. So we're actually in my studio right now, but it doesn't have to be in a studio. Anywhere that you have a window that will give enough light that you can do something like this is totally fine. And you could use artificial light LEDs to kind of mimic this if you wanted to, if you had a couple of them maybe, or like a big scrim that you could shoot through, because it's gonna mimic window light. So the main thing that we have to remember is that the light, it needs to be bright enough to do this. So if it's like really overcast late in the day, it probably isn't gonna work. But let's see what time is it? It's noon actually. So the sun's pretty much directly overhead outside my studio, and if it would work better if it is where it is, or if it's down, like coming into the window. Now, if it's behind the studio or the other side of the building, if it's bright outside, it might work. It kind of just depends where you're at. So you kind of have to play that by ear and figure out if your settings are going to be able to be able to make the situation work. I'm actually at 2.8, 1/160th of a second. I'm on flash white balance, ISO 400. So basically all we have set up here is 2 V-flats from V-flat World, and you don't have to have V-flats. You could have a white sheet, or you could go buy some foam core at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever, and you could make this yourself. As long as the surface is white and reflective enough for it to work, then it's gonna be okay. You could also use black or gray or whatever color you want really, and you could do this outside if you wanted to actually. So the main thing is we need a big light source. We need the sun shining in. So the reason I have it set up like this is these were actually from my wife, who's a real estate agent, and she wanted some new headshots. So we wanted to be able to sit, we wanted to be able to stand. So there's not a really big area here, but we could have made it maybe a little bit wider, but this is big enough just so the person can fit on it. So I've got her back, she's gonna be right in front of it, probably about right here. And we've got one side of it flat. If the seams show up here, then I'll Photoshop those out or clone them out and capture one in Lightroom. It won't be hard. You don't want to make too much work for yourself, so you'd rather not have to do that. So, but they're probably not going to show up because I'm shooting so shallow and there's so much light coming in, it's going to reflect, and that's the point. We wanted a white background, so normally if I was in the studio using strobes, I'd have to light it with strobes to make it white. But because it's so bright and this window is so big, that's going to take care of it for us. So we've got it flat, and then we've got it opened up on one side, so there's basically a reflector here with this side of the V-flat that she's standing in front of, and then we have a second one on the other side, and it's angled so that's going to reflect light back on her also. It's important also, like if you're going to do this, that you don't have it, if you have it shut like this, it's not going to reflect as much as if you open it, and you need to look at the surface of it so you can see if the light's hitting it and reflecting back. So basically, we just have pretty much a light box made here. It's not exactly the same on both sides, but it's close enough that it's going to give nice even light, and it's going to make anybody look good. So that's the good thing about a setup like this with a big light source with even light, is that it's going to make wrinkles less noticeable, and if somebody is a little bit heavier, then it's going to help that also too. So this is the best lighting scenario to make that, you know, this is going to work on any client that you have, and that's why it's good for headshots, because you want it to be about the person, you want to make them look flattering obviously, and it needs to be about them. So the background is going to be solid because of that, and that's what I usually try to do with my headshots, because I think that backgrounds are definitely interesting, and I like to take advantage of those whenever I'm doing portraits. But for headshots, it's a little bit different because these are going to go on business cards or ads or billboards or something like that, maybe a website. And so you don't want it to be distracting. You also want to be able to cut the person out if you have to, so that you can put it wherever they want. And if it's got a busy background, that's going to be harder to do, especially with girls if they have longer hair. So basically all I did was, whenever I got her in place, look through the meter on the camera, and I'm going to overexpose a little bit. I've got it set to multi-metering, so this is actually saying that I'm 2 stops over. But I'm gonna eyeball it anyway, because I'm just gonna see what looks best. So I'm gonna have her go ahead and stand in. So I've got her standing in the area that I'm gonna have her in for the shoot, and I've got my 24-70. So it depends on how you're doing this. If you're just gonna be zoomed in, then the 70-200 will be fine, but we're in a pretty tight space, because if I scoot her back too much more, then the window light's not gonna hit her anymore. We want it to be bright enough that the ISO is not gonna be a factor. I've got it at ISO 400 right now, which is probably, I could go a little bit higher if I needed to, but I don't wanna go much higher. So this is about, and I'd say we're probably 4 or 5 feet off the window here, well, probably about 5 or 6 actually. So I've got it on multimetering, so at 2.8 1/60th, if I zoom in and crop this to frame her from the bottom of her hands to the top of her head, it says I'm a third of a stop overexposed. So that's about what I want to do. If I go higher than that, it's going to start to blow out the highlights, which is not what we want. But we do want it to be bright enough that it's going to make her look, like I said, give her that glowing look to make her look as pretty as possible. So we want it to be a tad overexposed just to give her that glowing look, but we don't want to go too far. That's why it's important. You can use a light meter for this too, but I'm just choosing to use the meter in my camera. So that's pretty much it. It's really pretty simple, honestly. This is going to be, you're going to be at the mercy of the light coming through the window. Like I said, if the sun is setting, coming straight through, or if it's low, then that's going to definitely affect what you're doing. You could put a sheet or some kind of diffusion in front of the window if that's the case to make it softer. Right now, this is really the perfect scenario because it's bouncing off the concrete outside and then reflecting back in. So we've got plenty of natural light. The ISO is not too high, and we're at a nice shallow depth of field to give her that light and area look, which is really good for this kind of thing. And a lot of people like that kind of look for lifestyle headshots, which is exactly what we're going for here. Okay, so we've got our setup ready to go. So now I'm going to shoot and see what we can get. All right, that does it. So as you can see from the behind the scenes, I do show my clients the camera, or a lot of times I'll tether to the computer when I'm doing headshots, because this is the type of thing that they're not gonna have a whole lot of shots delivered to them. Normally, I mean, it may be one or two, and it could be up to 5 or 6, something like that. You could have more if it's a little bit longer of a shoot, but you want them to see them because these are the kind of thing they have to love headshots. It's not like a senior shoot, which you want your client to love your pictures no matter what. But on a senior shoot, you might be delivering 80 to 100 pictures, for them to look at as far as proofs go. So, and some of them might be more creative with the background and that kind of thing, and some of them are going to be more close up. But this is going to be all about them, nice and close up. So people can be very self-conscious whenever you're taking pictures like this. So when it's all about them and it's not about the background or anything like that. So you want to make 100% sure that they're happy. So shooting them nice and big to the computer or showing them the back of the camera when you're taking them is a good way just to make sure that they're 100% happy with everything you're doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when we post new content. There's going to be a lot more to come. Thanks for watching.